pay for it. But this project's been a very contentious issue for a few years. The property is sort of landlocked by neighborhoods and Emory University. The project sits on 11 acres. Apparently, there is a deed restriction, so this is an interesting thing that we learned. For years, we have heard through the grapevine that if the property were to be sold, it would revert back to Emory's ownership. And if you look at the county property records, it says that it is owned by DeKalb County Schools. And if you ask them about this reversion clause, they say, "Oh, that's not true. That's never been true." So I said, "What the heck? Let's request the deeds and see what that turns out." Turns out, fun fact, turns out that there is a reversionary clause, and there's one for part of the property that is enforceable. So, in addition to that property being landlocked, if they were to sell it and build a new high school elsewhere, it is possible that Emory University could have a legal claim to some of that property. And there was a meeting last night, and I think your team was there and filed a story on it. So let's see what they have to say about it.
Michael Roper knew for a long time what he wanted to do.
I joined band in 6th grade after the movie Drumline came out.
Now, in a full circle moment in his life, he can say he has the job of his dreams, directing the band at Druid Hills High School.
I graduated 2011 from this school. It's really surreal.
The campus, built in 1927, is full of character, but some feel it's time for an upgrade, especially after students shared this video on social media highlighting some dilapidated conditions.
It's time for that rebuild.
Monday, the DeKalb School District hosted its second meeting for parents and the community to learn more about the modernization project. The school board approved it originally for $50 million, but now the price tag may be between $80 to $100 million.
You also have cost escalations in the last 2 years for construction.
Chief Operations Officer Eric Hofstetter says parts of the campus are not even up to today's code. He hopes to modernize the campus while also preserving its charm.
To take the existing high school, modernize it, all right, and try to make it as contemporary as possible.
Monday's meeting was a chance for parents to prioritize what's important for them.
How important is it to having a large gym? How important is it to have an auditorium? And where does that rank on your list?
Safety is top of mind.
One of the scariest things is that 11-foot driveway to the back and the idea that fire engines can't get back there.
But also making sure the campus can be enjoyed by generations to come.
That's what I want them to see, is that we're taking care of what's coming our way and that it's a family.
Bridget Spencer, Atlanta News First.
So, a lot of insight from the folks that Bridget spoke to about how everyone's feeling about this. But, this is no small project. You're talking about $50 million that were budgeted to now upwards of 100.
That is the current number. It could be even more when all is said and done. I think just talking to some parents that were there last night, there was some frustration that the district wasn't a little more creative with the options that were presented, and they would like to see a few more alternatives than maybe what they showed us last night. But yes, this is going to be a very long, complicated I tried to figure out how to not write "big pain in the you-know-what" in my headline, and I think I got there. But yeah, this is going to be a tough one. But we will keep following it.
Well, hey, I think a couple episodes ago we talked about pickleball controversy, and that seems to continue for whatever reason beyond me.
I thought people liked pickleball. I don't get it.
Well, they clearly like it a little too much. Another pickleball controversy brewing now in Metro Atlanta, specifically in Tucker. The plan to install new courts drawing big objections at a city council meeting last night. And you folks at Decatur-ish, you guys actually spoke with some of the neighbors who went and expressed their displeasure with the project, especially surrounding the noise and light. So as pickleball popularity picks up, neighbors are putting their foot down.
So the meeting was actually October 15th. It was in Tucker, so it was a couple of weeks ago. But they're talking about putting pickleball courts at the Tucker Rec Center, which is going to presumably cost some money. The rec center itself is a little old, and there's residents that live behind the rec center that are concerned about the noise and the lights and the traffic and the things. But simultaneously, they're also concerned that not enough people will use it. I'm a little bit of a conspiracy theorist about pickleball because I work in website publishing and I mess with SEO a lot. Pickleball went from being a sport that, you know, you played at resorts when you were on a cruise or something, to all of a sudden being like America's favorite pastime. And I don't know how that happened. I don't know if there was just a lot of money pumped into promoting that, but for whatever reason, whenever we would do a story about pickleball, it did really well on Google, and it brought a lot of people out. But yeah, we have been under the presumption for the longest time that everybody loves pickleball. It's America's new pastime. And then all of a sudden, you got people in Avondale Estates that are saying that the pickleball courts are too noisy and they want to, you know, change some things to make it a little bit less of a nuisance to the neighborhood. And now you've got Tucker proposing this massive project, and they are also hearing from neighbors who don't like it all of a sudden. So maybe it's a pickle backlash. Maybe it's something.
I like that.
It's the pickle backlash. I don't know what's happening, but the fortunes have turned on pickleball in Metro Atlanta, at least.
So to put it briefly,
right?
The big fear with residents. I mean, if you had to sum it up, what is the concern here?
Noise and lights and people doing things adjacent to their property. It seems to be the big complaints about it. I will add, our family uses the Tucker Rec Center a lot. It's actually a former elementary school. I believe the county owned it at one point and sold it to Tucker. So on a personal note, I find it a little odd that they're putting the courts at this rec center when the rec center itself is arguably due to be for a significant overhaul to be rebuilt. That aside, I think everyone is just a little bit taken aback by all of the pickle backlash we are now seeing in our communities.
Pickle backlash. Well, I know you guys will continue to follow this.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of interest around what is going to happen both in Tucker and Avondale Estates.
Yep. Still does well on Google. So.
Still does well on Google, so we'll keep
right.
bringing you updates. Hey, from one protest to another, there is also some disagreement out in Kirkwood over a pet care club that is planning to open its newest location before the end of 2024. And now neighbors are concerned about the potential impacts of the project. Talk to me about that.
They're growling about this dog park. I am very surprised, because I thought everybody liked dogs. I thought that was there's universally held opinion that dogs are great. Dog parks are also great. But this business, Skip Town, is a little bit more than that. It's a 40,000 square foot facility. It's going to have boarding. It's going to have a daycare. It's going to have a restaurant. I think it's going to have beer and liquor.
Sounds like a dog mom's dream.
Right? It doesn't sound like anything that would be particularly controversial, but the residents in the neighborhood, they've started a petition. They've accused the city of Atlanta of sort of pushing this project without properly consulting the neighborhood. So there's some, again, the fears are going to sound very similar to the pickleball thing, you know, traffic, noise, some fear about the odors, I guess, because there's going to be pet boarding in a residential area. But this is another one of those things where I heard about it and I said, wait, there's a petition? People are against the dog park? Okay. So we were all over that story. And apparently this is going to happen. It's supposed to be constructed by the end of the year. The owners of Skip Town are doing some things to try to address those concerns, putting some buffering in place,
to be clear,
hour restrictions and all that.
Skip Town, that's the name of
Skip
this
Town,
established.
yes. The owners of Skip Town, right. This company, and they've got some other locations around the country. It's not a small project. You know, it's 40,000 square feet, so I don't want to minimize the size of the thing, but I do, and it could be just because I don't live next to it, and therefore am not as enlightened about where that sits. It's on Arizona Avenue, but yeah, there's a controversy involving a dog park. So we got two unusual controversies of like a pickleball controversy and a dog park controversy. There's first time for everything. Most of the time, people are like, yes, dog park, please put this in my backyard. This is the first instance that I'm aware of that there's been objection to it, but in fairness, it is a little bit more than a dog park. It's a full-fledged business around a dog park concept, so maybe that's why it's a little different.
And for those of you that wanted to dig into the story a little more, Decaturish put out a very comprehensive article on this, including the residents' perspective and the business, so do check that out. While we're on the topic of animals, I saw this on Decaturish.com, and I just had to ask you about it. So let's talk about horses for
The
a
horsey
minute,
farm.
of all things.
Horse is a
farm.
horse, of course, of course.
DeKalb County is set to spend more money on improving the Little Creek Horse Farm, which the county bought back in 2004. Now, for those that are unfamiliar, this has been really a novelty within the county's park systems. It offers a slice of country life to a crowded Atlanta suburb, but now it's in need just of a little bit of financial attention.
It was bought in 2004. So what people don't realize about this property is it's a floodplain. So you really can't do much with it but have it be a park of some sort. And there's this Little Creek Farm Conservancy, which is a lot of parks have these nonprofit arms that sort of support programming and the like. And the Conservancy board, out of the blue, really told everybody, hey, we're done. I think my headline, it was a good headline. It says, nonprofit board bolting, asking public to take the reins. I was very proud of that. I got a lot of feedback on it. So thank you for the people who appreciated my humor. But yeah, the board just decided that, hey, we're not gonna do this anymore. What we learned through the public meetings is that behind the scenes, the county is asking people who board horses at this facility to use their horses in riding lessons, and multiple members of the horse park conservancy board board their horses there. So they're under pressure from the county to use their horses in riding lessons, and they're saying, no way, we're going to move, and they have, in fact, moved their horses. So fast forward, we had a meeting. They had a subsequent meeting where they elected a sort of transitional placeholder board for the conservancy. I want to be clear that the park itself is not going away. It's going to get some upgrades. CEO Michael Thurman has said he's going to pony up some of the funds to refurbish the horse park, do some things. So out of this attention, they're going to get some things done. I just want to say on a personal note, I walk by that horse park a lot on my morning walks, and it is just such a gem to have in your community, especially in a big city like Atlanta. And it is the funniest thing in the world to walk by this horse farm, and the horses like run up to you while you're walking, and they're like, "Do you have any money? What you doing today?" You know, they're all very happy to see you, and it has a sign that says, "Be a friend to the horses. Don't feed them and don't pet them." And I'm thinking, well, how can I be their friend if I cannot pet them? It is a very conflicting situation, but the horses are really sweet. It's a really charming thing to have in our neighborhood. And to be clear, the horse park is not going away. What we're talking about here is the nonprofit board that supports the park, and it appears that the board is going to stay in place and continue its work. And as a result of the attention in my witty headlines, they're going to get some capital improvements at the horse farm. So there you go. That's the horse story.
The big
for the week.
takeaway,
the
of all
horsey
of
story.
this, Dan Wisenhunt is a horse guy.
I do like the horses. I'm very huge fan of Mr. Ed. A lot of people don't. It's probably an older generation thing, but that used to come on Nick at Night, and I love that program. So I'm always singing the theme song while I walk by.
Don't sing it now; we'll get copyright.
I won't do that. But I do love that horse farm, and it is a really nice thing to see every morning as I'm walking around DeKalb County. It's a beautiful piece of country life in the middle of this big city, and we enjoy it.
Well, Dan, we're reaching the end of our show, but
Are we?
before we go, this is a very special Tuesday that we are together, and that is because we are 2 weeks away from the general election.
Is there an election going on?
There's an
I have
election
not heard
going on.
about this. I haven't seen a single ad
Well-
during my football games. I haven't gotten texts from the county Democrats telling me to go vote. I haven't heard about any of this.
Well, these people
Shocking.
that you're looking at right here, they'll tell you a different story. They have heard all too much about the election, to the point where they are casting their ballots and they are getting their vote done early. Early voting has broken records here in Georgia. Lines are wrapped around buildings. Millions of Americans really across the country have already cast their ballot, and Georgia has now seen more than 200,000 ballots cast in the past 5 weekdays. The total for the state now at 1.5 million, and I do dare say probably slightly more from the time that I wrote down this statistic to now that we're talking about it here.
We're doing democracy so
We
hard,
really
y'all. Good
are.
job, everybody. Wow, that's impressive.
How's the DeKalb County side of things?
It's busy. I will point out that on the DeKalb Votes website, there's a link to a map, and we put it in the Decaturish voter guide. If you go to decaturishvotes.com, you'll see that, and it'll show you the wait times. And I don't know why people don't pay attention to this. So the Memorial Drive is always busy. You're looking at an hour plus wait time. Tucker, for whatever reason, always really busy. The lights around the other early voting locations are green. We voted in Clarkston. We were in and out in 10 minutes. It was the easiest thing in the world. So if you are planning to vote early, and you should vote, period, but definitely vote early. Go to DeKalbVotes.com or DecaturishVotes.com and look for that map. There's a map that, and I'll post the link when I post the preview of this article on Decaturish. There's a link that shows you all the wait times. Check that out before you go to the polls. You do not actually have to wait in a long line. You can cast your ballot anywhere at any of the early voting locations. So do your homework, figure out where you want to go. Go vote, then go grab some dinner or some coffee. Make it a family event. But yeah,
it's a good feeling.
It is
cast your
terrific
ballot.
to see everybody so engaged and participating in this process. I did puzzle over it because of we've got a former president who's running again. We've got a current. It's a little weird because Joe Biden dropped out and Kamala Harris is running, but it's the same now. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what you're waiting for. We feel like we have all the information we could possibly have about the candidates this year. So if you have not voted, please go vote. It's so important. It's important. Vote in every election, obviously. This election in particular.
Georgia is,
Yeah.
we can't emphasize enough what a battleground state
Georgia
is
is picking presidents now, y'all.
Come November 5th. And to the point that both presidential candidates are stopping a couple more times here
Yep.
in the state before November 5th. So
Your vote, I grew up in Alabama where my vote didn't matter at all, but my vote matters now, so that's pretty cool. So you're participating in a very special, historic moment if you're a Georgia voter. Your vote actually counts a lot more than you think it does. So please get out there and participate.
And for those of you that have listened to us long enough and they're like, okay, I get it, I'll vote, but not really clear on what's going to happen when you show up at your polling place or even where your polling place is, we did create a special elections tab on AtlantaNewsFirst.com. You can also access it in the free Atlanta News First app. That is every development regarding this election, as well as links and resources to what you need to bring, where you need to go, and even looking at your sample ballot ahead of time so you know when you get there who you're voting for.
Absolutely. Definitely check that out. Check out DecaturishVotes.com as well. All of the people who read Decaturish and support us should get the Atlanta News First app. It's a great way to support us, and it's a great way to support our partners at Atlanta News First. Of course, you can find all of the Decaturish news over at Decaturish.com as well.
We do this every Tuesday at 12:30 on Atlanta News First Plus. You can also listen to us as a podcast on the Atlanta News First podcast. Just search Decatur Dish. All right, everybody, make it a great day. Dan, closing words for the viewers?
Go get that podcast. The podcast is really nice. My mom said I always had a face for radio, so it's really, the podcast is really terrific. It's a great thing to listen to in your car, listen to while you're working out. Highly recommend the podcast. It's a great way to listen to this show.
We'll catch you next week.